Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And this is my February 2026 album release radar, where I'm going to talk about 15 albums coming out in February 2026 that I plan to listen to and give my first impressions of on the channel. I'm sure I will listen to more than just 15 in February, but these are the ones I have on my list right now. I'm sure I usually figure some new ones out as the month goes on. But I like to give people a sneak peek as to what I'll be talking about and put things on people's radars so that they can get excited for what's coming soon. So, without further ado, let's start off with February 6th. We have Karnivool with In Verses, the fourth album by this Australian progressive rock band. They've got some alternative and metal influences to their sound, and this is probably the one I'm most excited for. I think I accidentally thought it was coming out in January in some of my other videos, but it's actually coming out February 6th. And I think every full-length album that Carnival has made so far has been a near masterpiece, and the four tracks I've heard from this album ahead of time have all been amazing. All It Takes is a bit more on the metal side. It sounds a bit like Tesseract. And then they released Drone, Aozora, and Opal, all amazing tracks. Hopefully, this will be as good as all their other albums. If it's, I mean, even hoping it could be their best album yet. Let's wait and see. That's In Verses by Karnivool. Check it out if you like, Tool and uh, yeah, I think Tool's a close example here. I don't know who else. I guess Tool meets Tesseract, Caligula's Horse, those kinds of groups all grouped together. It's kind of got like a bit of like an alternative rock vibe mixed into the prog rock with a bit of metal. So that's kind of how why I think of Tool. And speaking of Tool, next one that I want to talk about here for February 6th is Puscifer and their album Normal Isn't, the fifth album by this American band. And this is an alternative rock band. It's experimental alternative rock with electronic, industrial, progressive, and art rock influences. And this is their fifth album. They feature Maynard James Keenan of Tool on vocals. So there's the Tool connection. I thought that Puscifer's debut album was good, but their last three albums in a row achieved an even better excellence from my perspective. So their debut isn't really something that I go back to much, but their last three that they've done before this, their second, third, and fourth albums, excellent stuff. And I hope this album continues that chain of excellent albums. Money Shot from 2015 to me is a near masterpiece and their best work. So I'm hopeful this could be as good as that. The singles ahead of time have been great. The Algorithm, Self-Evident, Pendulum, and Impedo Us. Really great stuff. If you're a fan of Maynard James Keenan, his vocals in Tool and A Perfect Circle, you should check this out because he does, great vocals here as well. Although the music here quite different. It's not really progressive metal or progressive rock or although it's still kind of weird. It's kind of progressive-y, but it's a lot more like glitchy, electronic, industrial, and artsy than the other projects which sound more like rock bands. Like this sounds like it could be like more of a studio project, more avant-garde, but also more avant-garde in some ways, but more straightforward and kind of 4/4 in other ways, though they do time signature changes too. Yeah, I think it's one you just have to hear to know what it sounds like. So definitely check out Normal Isn't by Puscifer. And next up, I've got Big Big Train with Woodcut. This is the 16th album by this excellent band from the UK that I love, and they're a progressive rock band. Pretty much all of Big Big Train's albums are excellent. So these first three albums that I'm talking about here are three of like the four that I'm most excited for this month. So February 6th is going to be a great day with Carnival, Puscifer, and Big Big Train on the same day. And not to mention there's more. What a great day February 6th will be for music. Big Big Train's just been very consistent in quality over their career. Beautiful, emotional singer-songwriter moments, great chord progressions, melodies, and arrangements with horns and violins on top of a normal rock band setup, but also some cool progressive interludes. Great solos and complexity, though the band is not as much about complexity and virtuosity as it is about atmosphere and beautiful vibes, because they go for those rather than just showmanship. This is their second album since the passing of their frontman David Longdon, so it features their new lead vocalist Alberto Brevin, and several other band members actually provide vocals too, though. So vocals are kind of a group effort with this band now. And this is a concept album, so that gives me an extra bit of excitement for it. That sounds good to you. Check out Woodcut by Big Big Train for fans of Genesis. I think you'll like this. Next up is Tigran Hamasyan with his album Manifeste, the 12th album by this Armenian jazz fusion pianist who mixes progressive rock, ambient, classical, and Armenian folk in with his jazz fusion piano playing. And I love his last album. I really should go back and check out the rest of his back catalog. For me, he's up there as one of the best keyboard and piano players, up there with like Jordan Rudess and Rick Wakeman as one of my favorite best solo piano players going right now, or really ever. I think he's just great, and the fact that he's on my list, I don't usually have like solo artist piano players. Like I said, it's really just Jordan Rudess, Rick Wakeman, and him that really catch my attention. Maybe there was a couple others that are all right. But yeah, he is just great. Like some of the stuff he does, it's not just piano, solo piano the whole time. Like there are drums and guitars and bass in a bunch of the songs, and even sometimes some other instruments. But he can be jazzy one moment, and then sometimes it's almost like gent piano going on. It's pretty crazy stuff. Gotta love it. Tigran Hamasyan, Manifeste. Check it out if you want to basically hear like Meshuggah meets jazz on piano. That's Tigran Hamasyan. Then last for February 6th, I've got Wolverine with Anomalies, the sixth album by the Swedish progressive metal band. And I've never heard an album by them before, but I checked out their single, A Perfect Alignment. I enjoyed it, so it's on my list now. They sound like they'll be up my alley. Check out Anomalies by Wolverine. Now let's go over to February 13th. I've got Converge with Love Is Not Enough, the 11th album by this American metalcore band. They've got mathcore, hardcore punk, post-hardcore, sludge metal, and post-metal influences. And I really enjoyed their last album. Their last one was a collaboration with Chelsea Wolfe that I thought was pretty cool. And I hope this can be as good as that because I really enjoyed that one. So check this out if you like metalcore, but it's not as much of the melodic side, and it's more of the like sludgy, atmospheric, post ambient metalcore. That's pretty cool. And another one on February 13th is Elise Trouw with The Diary of Elon Lust. Great title for an album. I think this one's also going to be a concept album. This one's different on my list because it's a pop rock album, and this is her second album. She's an American artist. It's got some alternative Indian art rock influences. I got into Elise Tro from watching her live looping YouTube videos. She's a very talented multi-instrumentalist and singer. She plays drums, bass, guitar, and piano and sings. And she can make some pretty cool songs with her live loop pedal approach, where she plays every part herself and makes loops and builds upon them. But I found that approach didn't translate as well into her recorded music on albums. Uh, it hasn't been as engaging for me as without the visual of like watching her YouTube videos and just watching her do it live. But I listened to her previous recorded work. It's all good, just not as spectacular as just watching her live looping videos on YouTube. But this album sounds different and interesting for her. She's changing directions a bit here. I heard a single ahead of time, All You Need Is Lust. It's a strange and different kind of track for her. It's a really odd music video with dancers dressed up as breasts and cherries and feet and blow up dolls and stuff like that. And Elise is dressed up as Justin Bieber or something. It looks like she's trying to look like Justin Bieber. And it's really just a pop song with a simple drum beat, but some cool, big, soulful chords. And that's what I realized this album's going to be a concept album. And this single introduced the character Elon Lust, which, I mean, the name sounds like Elon Musk, but the character looks like Justin Bieber. But it's just a fictional character representing an exaggerated version of modern masculinity. And the project on this album is going to satirize misogyny through humor and discomfort, pairing chilled rhythms with sharp, ironic lyrics. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff. I checked out some of the other singles, but I forget the name of them. But everything I've heard so far has been cool. I think it's cool to hear a pop kind of album like this that is a concept album that has a theme. So I'm interested in following that one. That's The Diary of Elon Lust by Elise Trouw. And next on February 13th, and the last one on my list for that date is Mumford and Sons with Prizefighter, the sixth album by this band from the UK. It's folk rock with indie, alternative pop, country, and bluegrass influences. And this is a band where I liked their debut album, but then they kind of fell off for me. They continue to put out decent to good stuff, but it's just been really kind of boring for me and samey since the debut, and it kind of misses the magic. But the singles for this new album have been great, actually, so maybe they can make a comeback to quality here. I think I'm feeling more optimistic about this one than their last one, and I have a feeling maybe they're going to come back to the quality that I think they can do. So I'm planning to check it out. It's probably not going to be a year-end list contender or anything like that. And if there is anything on my list so far that I recommend maybe skipping unless you know you're into it, it would probably be this one. I mean, this one's one that probably out of my list is the most for normie people. But if you're watching my channel and you value my recommendations, this is probably the least exciting one, but still probably interesting. So I'm going to check it out. Prize Fighter by Mumford and Sons. Now let's look at February 20th. I've got Good Tiger coming out with The Most Negative Day of the Year, the fourth album by this band from the UK. They're progressive rock, kind of bordering on metal almost sometimes with post-hardcore, math rock, alternative rock influences. And I thought their last album, Raised in a Doomsday Cult from 2020, was a near masterpiece. Their first two albums were both excellent. So I'm looking forward to this. If you're a fan of Mandroid Echo Star, Art by Numbers, The Safety Fire, Corellia, Caligula's Horse, and Earthside, imagine those bands being combined together, but making it a little bit less metal and bringing in a little bit more post-hardcore emo and swancore than those bands. Kind of like those bands meeting up with like a Dance Gavin Dance, Hail the Sun, and Idola. Though Good Tiger doesn't do too many harsh screams, they still focus mostly on melodic vocals. And I just think they're a really cool, unique sounding band, unique vocals, and really looking forward to this album, The Most Negative Day of the Year by Good Tiger. Then next up, I have Sylosis with The New Flesh, the seventh album by this band from the UK. And this is melodic death metal with melodic metalcore and groove metal influences. And everything I've heard by Sylosis has been very good, but nothing has really blown me away yet. But if you're a fan of Trivium and Soilwork, imagine combining their sound with bands like Vector and Lamb of God. And that's kind of what this Sylosis stuff reminds me of. So mostly harsh vocals, but some clean vocals, melodic riffing, fairly death metal, fairly thrashy, kind of some breakdowns and some grooves. If that sounds good to you, check out The New Flesh by Sylosis. Next, I've got Abstracted and their album Hiraeth, the second album by this Brazilian progressive metal band. It's progressive technical death metal with thrash metal and gent influences. And I never heard of this band before until I checked out their early single called Languish featuring Cheney Crab of the band Entheos, which is a band I enjoy. And it's just an intensely heavy progressive death metal track. It's well performed and produced, so I put it on my list to check out. Then I checked out another early single called Axis, which is also awesome, a bit more melodic than Languish. So it kind of showed that they have some range. Both are heavy, both are technical, both have some melody, pretty cool stuff. I'm excited to hear what they do with this album. And last on my list for February 20th is another oddball one for me, but I put on Hilary Duff with Luck or Something, the sixth album by this American artist. She's an actress and singer, of course, pretty well known and famous. It's pop rock, it's got some electronic influences, and I've never listened to a full album by her, but I do remember when I was 12 years old when her second album came out, and I liked some of the singles at the time. Like they were like a guilty pleasure, like songs like So Yesterday and Come Clean and Why Not. I listened to back then, and a couple of the new songs I checked out of curiosity, Mature and Roommates, and they're decent pop. So I figure I might check this out if I'm going to check out any pop albums this month. I've got to give Elise, Trouw, and Hilary Duff a check out for this month of February. Although now, if there's anyone on my list to skip, it was probably this one for my audience because it doesn't really line up with the genres that I cover here mostly. But I might check it out of curiosity and see what I think. Now let's jump over to February 27th. I've got Neal Morse Band with their album L.I.F.T, the fifth album by this American band. It's symphonic progressive rock. And I enjoyed their last album, which was Innocence and Danger. That's an excellent album. And surprisingly, I've never gone back and heard their other albums, but I've heard they're good. And I've heard a bunch of Neal Morse's solo albums, as well as his work with Spock's Beard. I've heard all that and all of it, the transatlantic work. Neal Morse and the Resonance, his band called Cosmic Cathedral, his band called Di Virgilio Morse and Jennings, all those bands that feature Neal Morse, and I've heard all that stuff. And I know he usually puts out excellent stuff with only a few exceptions and misses here and there. So I'm looking forward to this one. The singles were both great, and it's a great surprise to see Mike Portnoy, one of my all-time favorite drummers, still playing with this band despite his return to Dream Theater. So I thought he might have been forced to break up with all his other bands when he went back to Dream Theater, but I guess he managed to keep this one, and I think that's really cool. And I'm hoping this will be as good or better than their last one. So far from the singles, it sounds like it could be. So really optimistic and looking forward to this one. L.I.F.T by Neal Morse Band. Check it out if you like Spock's Beard, Transatlantic, Neal Morse, anything from the Neal Morse universe. And then I have a Wilhelm Scream releasing Cheap Heat, the eighth album by this American melodic hardcore punk band with skate punk, pop punk, and heavy metal influences. This is fairly technical and progressive melodic hardcore punk rock for fans of Propagandhi, Choke, and Protest the Hero. Check it out if you like those bands. And then last album on my list for February is Pat Metheny and his album Side-Eye 3 Plus. Uh, it's hard to say how many albums this amazing American jazz fusion guitarist has because he's done so many studio albums, he's done live albums, he's done soundtracks, compilations, he's done albums under just his name, albums under the Pat Metheny Group, Pat Metheny Unit Band, Pat Metheny Unity Group, Pat Metheny Trio, as well as collaborative albums, duets, trios, quartets, and being in other people's groups. So I'm not really sure how many he's done. I think this is somewhere between album number like 41 and 48, depending on what you count as his solo career. And I haven't listened to him much, but I listened to his 2021 album, Road to the Sun, which I thought was good. And I listened to an early single from this new one called Don't Look Down, which was good. Not exactly my main style because it's instrumental jazz fusion here, but this guy can play a mean guitar and it sounds beautiful. So I kind of just want to check it out from that just to hear his skill and experience this style of music a bit more as I don't dive into it too often, but every now and then I enjoy myself some jazz fusion. And that's it for my February album release radar. Which one of these albums are you most excited for? And are there any other albums coming out in February 2026 that you think I might enjoy? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like metal, rock, and prog, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the loop on when I post new videos. I'll be posting my first impressions on each of these albums the week that they come out, so you can see what I think about these. And my next video, I'll be posting my first impressions on stuff that comes out January 30th, 2026. So you'll hear my thoughts on new music from The Hirsch Effect, Earn, Dead Air Divine, Mole, Lights, and Plantoid. So hopefully people are looking forward to what I'm going to say about those. And in between my videos about new music, I might occasionally post the odd video about some classic music that I enjoy as well. And that's all for today. So peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.